Hey everybody, this is Sherry with CPR, Craft, Pray, Repeat. And I'm here today with a video for Honeybunnies Treasures, and I'm using the Lawn Fawn Critters on the Farm set. I will make sure that I put all of the colors that I use on the screen for you. And what I'm doing here is I wanted my cow to be white with black spots, which for some reason my brain says, I'm sure they come in other colors, but my brain says cows are white with black spots. And so that's where we're going with this. And then I realized that I didn't get it as dark as I wanted. So I do end up going over it again and trying to get, achieve the look that I want. And so now we've switched to do the udders. I do the udders in the, what do you call it, a nose? The cow's nose? Is it a snout? I don't know. A snout's a pig. I don't know. That part at the front where it breathes, I do that with R00 and 01. And I'm not using a lot of colors on this. And his horns are E51 and 53. And then I'm just doing the shadows for the cow to be white, because even though he's white, he's still going to have shadows. And when you want to do something white, you have to, put in your shadows. And it looks a little gray at times when you're doing it, but when you're done, it will definitely look like it's white, and which sounds very confusing, but it works. And so I'm just going to finish up my cow. And I went out today and got a few more things for the hurricane. And I have to laugh at myself. I was like, you know how when you do things and you can either laugh or you could cry? I figured laughing seems so much better than crying. So I go out, and my husband's like, what's the worst that could happen, Sherry? And I said, let's see. I said, I die and go to heaven. I said, that doesn't sound bad at all. I said, because frankly, I'm kind of tired of being in pain. And so I went to the store, and so we hung up the phone, and I went to the store, and when I left, I called him again, and I told him that I had went and got a few things at the store, and he said, what'd you get? And I said, well, if God's going to take me home, I want a Nutter Butter. I picked up 2 packs of Nutter Butters, and I know I'm on a diet, but I can't help myself. I eat when I'm nervous. And so my kids, I figured, I'm trying to make this as unscary as possible. And so when we were living farther down south in the Tampa Bay area, we had several hurricanes that, were there that we, dealt with, but none that were anywhere close to us. All we got was, the outer bands. And so we would always tell the kids that we were having a hurricane party. And we never lost power. God was so good, because I get sick if I get really hot. We never lost power, and all of our friends who did lose power would empty their refrigerators, come over, we would cook all this food, and they would stay at our house and spend the night, or however long it took for them to get the power back and stuff at their house. And so we had always called them hurricane parties, and I thought, that's what we're going to have. And so I went to the store, and I got the kids some cookies and some chips, and they may be wound up and bouncing off the walls with a little bit of a sugar rush, but at least maybe they won't be frightened, because the way it stands right now, the eye of the storm is 43 miles, and it's going to go right through Lake City, which is 20 miles from our house. So I'm just gonna have faith. And right now the you know, the interstate is like a parking lot. There's so many people, you know, nobody's going anywhere. So even if you wanted to try to leave, you know, it just would not be something you could do. And so now we're just, you know, it's just a waiting game for us right now. And so, but, you know, as long as my kids are okay, I'll be all right. But I am concerned about my son and daughter-in-law. I wanted them to come up here, and, you know, it's still going to be, I think, a Cat 4 when it hits Tampa, and they just live right outside of Tampa, so please keep them in your prayers. And also there was a young lady, well, she's a 13-year-old kid, and she asked her mom if they could leave. They live right on the beach. And her mother said no, they were going to wait out the storm. And this kid is scared to death. And I'll give you her first name. Her first name is Brooklyn. And so if you could remember her in your prayers, I would greatly appreciate it. And you can see here I'm getting ready to just fussy cut out all of my pieces. And I did collar. You'll see me cut out the fence, and then I'm like, I didn't like it. And so I decided that, you know, yep, I could use a die and make a little hillside. And then I was like, you know, man, I wish I had that one die they have that has the hillside, that has the fence that kind of arches around. And I thought, you know what? I can do this. And I don't need any fancy dies. And that's what I wanted to show you all today, that I could make this card, make it the way I wanted, and use no fancy smancy anything. The biggest thing here is my markers and my scissors. That's it. And so I just want to try to encourage the crafters that are just beginning and starting out. Don't think you have to have everything, because it's okay if you don't. You can still make really great projects. And I love doing scene cards. That's one of my favorite things. And so I turned this into a scene card. And so here I am. I'm cutting it up thinking, you know, this is what I was going to do. And my plan is like to use a blue marker for the sky at the top part, and then use a green marker for the grass. And thinking that I could cover in those spots, those white spots. And then I decided, nope, I decided to cut it apart. And then I took my scissors and I cut myself a little hill out of green paper. And so I cut my little fence apart, and I make sure that I go around it, you know, with my marker. And then I'm able to put my fence exactly like I wanted it. Exactly like if I had had that die that, you know, makes your fence go up at an angle. I don't know why I never thought of this before, because I think this is really awesome. And I was like, you know, see, we don't need anything fancy. A pair of scissors and some paper, and we can make beautiful cards. Now, because I wanted the piece that was behind the wood to be darker, like I collared it darker, I went ahead and found myself a piece of brown paper, and I cut a thin strip. Now here I'm just using my Memento dual tip marker. I can't even talk straight. Using my Memento dual tip marker and going around all of the little fence post pieces. And you can't tell in the video, and you really can't tell unless you stop and like look. Remember how I told you I always make mistakes? Well, whoever gets this one, you know, you'll find one, because I ended up cutting the little fence crooked, and so like my fence looks a little wonky, like maybe termites ate it or something. And so Whoever gets this, you'll know where the boo-boo is because I'm telling you. And so here I go. I'm just going to take my green paper and my scissors, and I'm going to cut my green pasture out and get it the way that I want. And now I'm going to fit in those little fence posts. And if you have a die, I mean, you could do the exact same thing here, just cut them apart. But I wanted to use the stamp set, and it's called Critters on the Farm, and I got it at Honeybunnies Treasures. And she's got quite a bit of lawn fawn stuff in, so I will definitely make sure I link not only this stamp set, but I'll link the lawn fawn link so that you guys can go and check out all of that too. And there I'm just trying to figure out where I want my barn. Now what I'm doing is I'm using my ATG gun, but only putting the tape at the bottom. I want to have room to stick my my little fence post in. And yes, I know that my fence posts are funky on the back. I had printed something and my printer messed up, and I was like, two sides to every paper. I'm using the other side. I was refusing to waste it, so I just went and stamped on the other side, and you can't tell that there's red on it or anything. So, you know, easy peasy, no big deal. You know, so just because you mess up one side, don't throw it away. You know, remember, two sides to every piece of paper. And unless you really put some pressure and got your ink all the way through, you should be okay and be able to use the other side. I just was so tickled with how this turned out because I think this looks every bit as good as that die that I have seen, you know, people use. And here I go. I thought the strip was too wide, so I'm just gonna cut another thin strip, and then I just cut that into small pieces and kind of snake it along the fence post so that everything looks nice and connected. And I'm using my art glitter glue, which you all know is like my favorite glue in the whole world. I think that stuff is awesome, and you can find that all as well at Honeybunnies Treasures. And it just depended on how the arch was, whether I could, you know, use two fence posts or four fence posts, or, you know, because I didn't want it to look like the boards were all bent in the back. So I just did what looked right, and then I started by cutting another one. And so I think this worked great, and I really want to encourage you crafters, even if you don't have a stamp, if you don't have the die, come on, use your imagination, cut some pieces, cut some strips of paper, angle them up at the corner, and and ink around the edges, and you've got yourself a fence post. And I know that you guys can do this, and I would love it if you do it, if you would, you know, message me so I can go and check it out and see what you did. Because, you know, when I started crafting years and years ago, I loved when people shared their ideas with me. So it encouraged me to go and try and do other things. And that's what I hope that I'm doing for you guys, is trying to encourage. You know, that's what I want. And these are called egrets, my daughter said. And I always called them cowbirds because you see them down here, and they're like, I don't know what they're doing, but they'll be riding on top of the cows, and they're walking all around the cows. And so I don't know really what their purpose is, but I know they're called an egret, and I decided to turn those two little birds into egrets, which egrets have like long, skinny legs, but mine didn't. We can say mine are babies, or we can say mine are, they reached, perfection early because that's why they're so short. Yep. God only grows you till you're perfect, and they reach perfection early. So I'm just going to use some double-sided adhesive, and then this is the Darice adhesive foam strips. I could have, I'm sure, cut the pieces off of the foam strip, but I found out that this seems to be a lot more flexible, and it worked really quick. One strip, I had all my legs on, so I have support under all of the cow, and I even go back later and take another piece. I don't do it on camera, but I put it underneath the bottom of the cow's tail, so you know his little tail is not going to get squishy or nothing. And so here I go. I'm trim. What the heck am I doing? Oh, I'm trimming the legs off of them, and I trimmed off the legs because they're just little sticks, and they were too hard to try to cut. So I use my Copic multi-liner, and I draw little legs on them. And so that one's riding on the cow's back. And because there wasn't a lot of detail to them, I made sure that I wanted the image to be real crisp. So I went over, you know, the little bit of detail that was on it. Now here's where I officially finally glue all of the fence down, because I had to keep it loose so that, you know, I could maneuver it. And here I'm just going to trim it down to 4 by 5 1/4, because I decided that I wanted it to have a gray border, and I used some Recollections 110-pound gray cardstock for that. Now here I cannibalized 2 sets of stamps, and I used the Moo from the Critters on the Farm, and then I used this set from More Essential Sentiments from MFT. And I I cut the Moo, so don't panic because you can put it back together. But with this one, I was able to just mask off the U, and it says, "Moo make me happy." It doesn't take much to tickle me, guys. It really doesn't. I thought that was so cute. Moo make me happy. Alright, guys, I hope you like this video. If you do, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. Remember to practice your CPR, craft, pray, repeat. Thanks for visiting me today, and happy crafting. Bye.